Hey everyone, good morning. Good morning. It's that time of month again. It is the first Thursday of the month. Can you believe it's already October? How crazy is that? And the first Thursday of the month, every single month, what is it? That's right. It's your live Q&A time with Club 1040. It's our opportunity to share with you some of the reports and prayer requests that we have. And I'm going to start off with a great testimony in just a second. But in today's episode, we have a special guest, and that is the amazing Elisabeth Beemer. And she's going to be sharing a little bit about tomorrow is our Club 1040 Day, celebrating 30 years of missions. And so she'll be talking about what's going to happen tomorrow on that, share a teaser of our 30-year vision magazine, some pretty cool things she's been working on. And so loads going on today. Please do help us by sharing this. And if you don't get our email, which comes out mid-month and then end of the month, you want to make sure that you drop your email address in the comment section and we'll get it to you, or just message us and we'll do that. So before we bring Elisabeth on, I know everybody's wondering about what's happening in the Middle East and with Lebanon and Israel. And so a quick update from our team. And the reason I want to share this especially is there's prayer requests that we have, of course, but one of the things that, and by the way, don't forget, if you have questions, you can drop questions in and we will do our best to get to those questions as well. This is your opportunity to engage with us on a monthly basis, ask those questions. For those of you that haven't heard the news, over the last 3 weeks, things have escalated exponentially. And Israel has moved from focusing on Gaza and Hamas, and they've moved north. And some of you may not even be that familiar with the fact that geography is that Israel and Lebanon share a border. Northern Israel and southern Lebanon share a border. And that's been a border that's been in conflict since the war in 2006. And there's an area called the Blue Line area. That area is where there's United Nations representatives there to try to maintain some level of buffer zone. We've done ministry in the past. You've seen us do ministry. You have to get special government permission to go into that area. We've had that. We've worked with some church plants and different things in that area over the years. Within in some of these things are hard for me to talk about from a security standpoint, but I'm going to try and share as much as I can. A lot of it's public knowledge anyway. And currently I'm not overseas. So we're in the US because Julie is actually with her family in Mississippi right now because of her grandmother passed away. And so she's there for the funeral, the memorial service and things. And then she and I will travel back overseas next week. Okay, so what's happened is for years now, it's been almost 3 decades now. There has been a group within Israel called Hezbollah that has developed military resources that were so substantial that they actually exceeded the Lebanese military resources. So, in other words, Hezbollah's military capabilities were much greater than even the country's capabilities. So, what happened is over time, is this country called Lebanon has actually some people say some countries have terrorist groups that work within them, but up until recently, at least, Lebanon has been a country that's been captured or taken control of or the influence by a terror group. So that group, Hezbollah, was led by someone named Nasrallah. And over the last 2 weeks, there has been an exponential escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. I want to make a really important point here. Hezbollah does not equal the Lebanese people. The Lebanese people are some of the best, most amazing people in the whole world. They're the most enjoyable people to be around. And they're precious people. The country's a beautiful country. The people are amazing in their hearts. They're so warm and hospitable, and they're just incredibly gifted and talented people. But this group was a very, very large group and supported by a large component of the population, maybe 20% or so of the population. And anyway, so without getting into too much of the minutia, what happened is the first thing that happened is over this last year, well, if you remember, the Bible College started on October 7th and 8th, and that's the same weekend that war broke out between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Well, on October 8th, the next day, we're coming up to 1 year. Hezbollah joined that fight by beginning to shoot missiles. And over the last year, there's been about 8,000 missiles that have been fired from Lebanon into Israel. That's what's been reported. So Israel had to take about 60 to 80,000 of their people who lived on the border and had to displace them, move them into the central and other parts of the country. So there's about 60 to 80,000 people in Israel that do not have, they're not in their homes. They don't have schools accessible to them, etc. And that's been for like a year that way. They've been staying with family or friends or in hotels, things like that. Well, that's not sustainable long term. And Israel's been preparing as they got Gaza under control to move north during this time. And actually, it's not even been reported until this last week, but it seems as though for the last 200 days, they've been doing special operations missions even into the territory of Lebanon, going into these tunnels and things. If you've seen pictures of the tunnels in Gaza with Hamas, the tunnels in Lebanon that Hezbollah has is, I mean, you can drive semi trucks through them. They're so much more sophisticated. And they go all over the country, from the south of the country to the Bekaa Valley in the east to underneath Beirut. And so, speaking of underneath Beirut, in southern Beirut is the main stronghold of where most of the Shia people live. And that's where Hezbollah is a Shia Muslim group. And so that's where Hezbollah is based. And underneath a lot of those buildings are where a lot of the tunnels and things are put. And so, and they do that to kind of shield themselves from attacks from the outside. And so a couple weeks ago, the first thing that happened is Israel detonated at 3:30 in the afternoon pagers there had been about 5,000 pagers, and they had 4 to 5,000, and they were all wearing these. And about 3:30 in the afternoon, everybody got a message that they thought was from the leader. And then the pagers kind of began to make funny noises and then blew up. It blinded about 500 people, and maybe 1,000, 2,000 lost fingers and limbs, and hurt people in other ways. So it was a very strategic surgical attack on the group itself. And it is a brilliant strategy, because the problem is how do you go to a place and you take out the group that's shooting missiles at you without causing much damage to the people in the country? And they did that in Gaza. They took out all those buildings and leveled them. That was a very different situation. They can't do the same thing in the same way in Lebanon. They'd become an outcast in the international community, and they would have this uprising against them. So they couldn't afford that politically, nor do they want to. Then the next day, same thing happened, walkie-talkies. I won't go into the details behind how they were able to make that happen. And then another day which was kind of the main escalation, is a number of F-15 aircraft flew over Beirut and dropped bombs, about 4 or 5 bombs, on like a meeting that had like 15 people from the leadership of Hezbollah, and there were some people from Iran and different places like that there. And took them all out in one go, taking that whole building out. And that was a major escalation, which seems like years ago now, because since that time, not only have they done that, but then they also located where Nasrallah was, and where Nasrallah was in southern Beirut area, they flew over and dropped 80 bunker busting bombs that went down. They say 14. I've read one report said 14 stories down, and took out the leader of Hezbollah. So on the silver lining side, what that does is it completely disrupts the ability for Hezbollah to continue to control the dynamics within Lebanon. But doesn't remove Hezbollah entirely. It's a massive group, and there's always someone to take the place. Even though they decimated like several layers of leaders, there's always someone that can take that person's place, even way down the ranks. So So what now Israel has done over this last couple of days is they started to maneuver inside the country with ground troops, and they're going in and they're beginning to do like they did in Gaza, where they're blowing up all of the tunnels. And it's in that process, they discovered that actually Hezbollah was aiming to do exactly what Hamas did. Hamas preempted Hezbollah; they were going to do it together at the same time, but I think what happened is the leader of Hamas and the leader of Hezbollah, they were not in agreement, and so Hamas just went with it. They were tired of waiting, went with it. So, but they were the Hezbollah groups were piling up ammunition and different things on the border of Israel, inside Lebanon, for the preparation of doing the exact same thing that happened on October 7th. Maybe even at the same time it was supposed to be, but like I said, Hamas went kind of unilaterally, went on their own. Anyway, so, but now, there's not been a president in Lebanon for like 2 years. So now there is like for the very first time, and the reason is because Hezbollah had the greatest political influence, and they were always controlling who would be nominated or put up for president. And so there's like this conversation that has to happen, used to have to happen beforehand. And then Hezbollah would say, okay, we will allow this person to go forward to be voted upon, and then Parliament would vote for the president. But yesterday, the day before, now that Nasrallah's gone, the person who represents the greatest group of Shia people other than Hezbollah is the Secretary General, kind of the leader of Parliament. And he said that he's willing to discuss moving forward with the president without having that conversation beforehand now. So there is a glimmer of hope, a silver lining that Lebanon could finally get a president, and that would be fantastic. And maybe over the space of, I predict that there will be many months of ground operations, even though Israel says they're going to try and make it as fast as possible. I predict it'll be many months. But in all of that, I want you to know the schools continue to have 1 weekend off. The school is continuing this weekend, and we have exciting news, because one of the things that we've asked for a prayer request in the past is for a facility, a building, and we've been believing God for that, and we just haven't felt led to, go and raise a bunch of money and go and buy something or rebuild something. We've looked at so many buildings. The team's looked at maybe 100 different buildings over the last year, looking for that perfect place. Well, the good news is we found a place that's ready to move into, and it's cheaper than both the church and the Bible college, what they pay each month to use. We've been using the city municipality. And the thing about the city municipality is the other Sunday when Julie and I were there, a quote unquote Christian, a traditional Christian minister, quote unquote minister, came into the service and saw, they're from a traditional background. They saw that we were doing communion, and they didn't like the way we were doing communion. So they complained, and that basically made it so that we were had to move out of that building. And so we're like, okay, where does the church meet then in the next month? We had no place to meet. And then the Bible college was able to meet there for another couple sessions, but then it was like no more. So the good news though is that we have found a location. You just saw one of the pictures there, and we'll go through a couple of them. This is a picture of the actual meeting space. There's a couple rooms like this that can be used. There's a little bit of a cafe fellowship area as well. But like I said, so it's even better than that. Not only is it a good location, good parking, all those different things, but then also, and it's a great building, but then also it's less expensive than what we had been paying for the rents. And we get to use it all month long, where the other venues were only used per event use. So we didn't have continual access. And this will be great on the team. They're not going to have to go in and move stuff in and out. There's a huge amount of preparation and time that goes into all that stuff. As you guys know, if you've done mobile church or mobile Bible colleges, it's a huge amount of work and effort to move everything in and out. So that's going to be great for the team, and especially needed during this time.
Morning.
Good morning. And I know where you're at. Tell me about it.
Do you know where I'm at?
I can tell.
So this is my new studio/event space in Broken Arrow, and it's on Main Street, Broken Arrow. So it's a really good location, but basically people can come in, rent it hourly, and it's for photo shoots, for podcasts. We have all the equipment for any kind of event that you can think of. We got you covered. But it's called Sweeter Studios and Social.
So it's a great space. I recommend it. We used it last week to do some podcasts, and they do provide a full service thing where you can pay them, which she charged me full rate, by the way, guys.
Oh, well, that's not true.
No, it's not.
Not true.
Okay, I don't know what she charged because I don't
Yeah,
pay
for
the bill. Okay, so she was very generous with the rate towards us. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a missionary child growing up in the mission field?
Number one, you're gonna be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, you're gonna be okay.
Survive.
But I think now at the time I was not having the best time, but now I can look back and I'm 26 and I was traveling I was born in the UK at 0, obviously, and then all the way until I was 23, I think. And I was traveling that whole entire time. So now I can look back and I'm like, oh, I'm so, so, so glad and so thankful for everything that I got to do, all the cultures that I got to see and meet and places I got to go. So you're going to be thankful in the long run. I promise. You got this.
And you guys as kids were amazing as we traveled around and did all the things that we did. You guys have been amazing. And even more impressive is how we've seen you mature into adulthood. It's been fun to watch that. Speaking of, you have a couple things that you do. You do your own, you got a couple businesses going, but one of the things you do is also our communications team lead for Club 1040. So tell us what you do with that role.
Yeah, so for that role, I basically do all the pretty things that you guys see for Club 1040. I get to do the newsletters, these kind of things, anything that is through social media, and I get to be in charge of a team of some really amazing people. Shout out Kay and Alberto and some other people. Oh, actually, I see Kay is watching right now. That's super cool. But yeah, so I get to do all of the communications or creative side of things for Club 1040.
Yeah, and you've made incredible improvements, and it's so much better than Julie Beemer or Matt Beemer doing it. So we are so grateful and thankful, and you do a great job. Working with our designer in the UK. You have the benefit of having grown up in the UK, so you can understand the way he thinks and the way he speaks, and that's a huge win. And then plus, you're able to bring all the history and knowledge of the past into your work, and you do a great job with that. Okay, speaking of history and past, you've been working on something to help us celebrate 30 years in missions, and that's the 30-year magazine. So tell us about it.
Well, one of the things that we started a few years ago was Club 1040 Day. And Club 1040 Day was basically started because there's so many different organizations that have a day dedicated to themselves where they're kind of asking for things. And we wanted to have a day that would be thanking everyone, thanking our partners, thanking you guys, and then kind of shining a light where credit is due, which, is to you guys. So we started that about 3 years ago on October 4th, which 10-4, October 4th. I know if you're in the UK, that might be a little confusing. But yeah, so every year on October 4th, we either will choose a project or choose something to be thankful for. But this year specifically, which it just kind of lines up with the fact that 30 years ago on October 4th, my parents started. Did you move to the UK or did you start Club 1040?
Got on the plane 30 years ago from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and flew to the UK.
Yeah, so it just so happened to line up exactly with Club 1040 Day. Crazy how that works. With that, this year we want to go ahead and celebrate 30 years of everything that has happened. And there's been a lot that has happened. This is an example of the magazine that we're doing. So we're going through the decades, and this is one of the first spreads that we did. And this is the pre-Club 1040 / the dating and getting married. And one of the cool things about this magazine that many of you are going to be receiving is that there's QR codes on there. So we wanted it to be very visually pleasing, but with information, but with the QR codes, you can scan those and then it will take you to videos. It will take you to other documents that you can read more about, watch more about, listen more about. And so, yeah, super excited about that.
And so that's a good reason to make sure we have your email address and your mailing address and all those things. So if you haven't ever received anything in the mail from Club 1040 or you don't receive our emails, make sure that you message us with your contact details so that we can get that to you when it's printed and when it comes out, so they can
Shout
see
out
them.
to Karen Jensen too. She helped with this a little bit. She's in the chat right now. There's been a lot of people and a lot of creative minds coming together to make this work. So thank you to everyone who has helped make this happen.
Absolutely. And before you go, is there anything you want to say about Kindle the Flame? I know that's something that happened this last week. There was about 1,200, 1,400 ladies that met together in Tulsa.
So Kindle the Flame happened last week, and there was so many amazing speakers, but one very special speaker was my mom. She got to speak on Just One Thing, which is about Mary and Martha and Luke. What's the scripture? I can't remember. There's scripture in Luke. But basically about doing your just one thing. She did amazing. There's so many people that came in from all over the world, all over America. Adeline, my little niece, got to sit in on her very first church service and also got to sit and listen to my mom, which was super exciting. But yeah, it was a really great week, and we were super thankful to be there. And thank you to Pastors Lynette and Kenneth, and of course Denise, for letting us to join in. And then the team, oh my gosh, Clubton 40 team absolutely knocked it out of the park. We were in the back setting up with the table, and it was one of the only tables that was there. So we were staying very, very, very busy, and everyone seriously did amazing. All the girls were super friendly, super kind, and it was a great week, and my mom did amazing.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to all the team members too. You guys did a phenomenal job, and we celebrate you. One of the things that happened during this is there were a number of churches that signed up for the Go mission curriculum that's being released for pre-release. And so they'll get that. And later on in the year, others will get the opportunity to access that too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. So all of your partners, one of the things that to realize is that there have been somewhere around 7,000 Matt and Lizzie books that have been are in distribution. And if 2 to 3 children, each one, read each one of those books, and it's probably more than that, then you're talking about, thousands of children's lives that have been impacted with the heart for missions. And now you're getting ready to impact entire church children's ministries with the 4-week Go curriculum that's being released, which I know you've worked a lot on. So one of the things that we're doing to celebrate the 30 years as we move forward is we did some podcasts, and we'll be doing some more as well. We'd like to do 30 podcasts to celebrate 30 years, and over the next weeks and months. Tell us a little bit about that.
The other day, we got to get together in the studio here and record, like you said, 30 stories for 30 years of ministry, missions, all of the things. And a lot of people are the timeline is pretty crazy for our lives and also for Clifton 40 and your ministry. And so we kind of broke it down a little bit and went into the nitty gritty. There's some stories in there that you guys may not have known that have happened. And we just wanted to be super real and break it down and make it fun. But 30 stories for 30 years.
The last thing from a report standpoint, and then we'll share some prayer requests, and then we'll kind of come in for a landing if there's any other questions we need to answer, is the previous week, so like about 10 days ago or so, Julie, myself, Christy Gregg, and Brian Hunter, we were all in Michigan for a conference with about 1,000 leaders from churches from all over the Great Lakes area. And the team did a great job connecting with team members there. And then also we ministered in a church there in Newaygo, and Resonate Church, a church that's been a partner of Clubton 40 for, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years, something like that. So it's been a busy period. We're also working on the clubhouse here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and doing some things with the team a little bit, and then getting ready to move back overseas for what is a very busy period. So
tune in to Facebook, to Instagram. We're going to be doing Facebook Lives, really, again, talking about some of the stories that you guys just haven't heard of, some of the funny things, some of the things that we probably didn't want you guys to know about, some bathroom excursions and funny foods and all that good stuff. So that's going to be all day tomorrow. So yeah, tune in to help us celebrate 30 years.
Okay, so some prayer points. I told you about the answered prayer, and so as we, give these prayer requests, continue to press into them seriously because God is answering your prayers, and we appreciate it. So the escalation between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon and the ground advance, Isaiah 29:17-20 is our promise scripture there. In case you didn't hear that, Isaiah 29:17-20. Also, in this month, which is a very busy month, in the next sort of we're going to be in 7 countries in about 10 weeks. And a couple of the countries, or one particular we've not been into before, it's a security sensitive country. So be praying for us from a travel schedule that way. But one of the things we're doing is we'll be in Zambia in mid-October with about 100 to 120 team members from all across Africa and the Middle East that are meeting together and be praying into the fact that, the logistics with all the things going on with the war and the flights and that sort of thing is the main issue is the logistics getting in and out of the country. There's also visa potential challenges. Maybe they won't want people to leave Lebanon and come to their country for reasons they think maybe someone will use that in a nefarious way, all of that. But in October, we have this important meeting in Zambia, which is in Southern Africa. And then we'll also be in Beirut for the first level certificate time. Be praying into that. That's when the students are completing their certification for their first level. They've done the 24, 25 courses that they've done by that time, and they've qualified for being approved as finishing level 1, and then they'll go on to level 2 as we enter the new year. And if you want to get the Vision magazine in the future, you give us your details.
Yep.
And if you have any questions or prayer requests, you don't have to wait till next month's first Thursday live Q&A, but you can ask us questions anytime, but you can also see us next month on the first Thursday of the month. God bless you. Thank you so much for all you do for Clubton 40.